How to draw your hand, part 2. Okay, the next part is to begin drawing in some of the shapes. I'm just going to use simple lines for the dark and light areas of my drawing. So these are going to be guides for me to help add in my tonal shading. Today we're going to be doing just normal hatching. So I am just, as you can see, down the right hand side of my fingers, adding a line because that's where the shadow is going to be. Okay, so normal diagonal hatching there, pressing hard. That's going to be my darker tone. And we're not going to be paying too much attention to the curvature of my fingers and hand here. We're going to be looking at it more carefully just to do with the tone. So you can see I'm adding my hatching with a diagonal line. And I am able to do that quite quickly and then just neatening it up at the end when I get to the top. And already it's starting to look like the light is now shining from the left, which it was, and I've got shadow on the right. We're going to think about our fingers like they're cylinders, I suppose. So that's going to make up our dark tone, and then the next tone after our dark shadows will be our mid-tones. And like if we were drawing a cylinder with the light from the left, we will be in the middle area just using a mid-tone for our rendering. Now, on to the slightly difficult part of the thumb, the muscle which joins the thumb to the hand. And it's sort of bulging up because the muscle is curved underneath, it's compressed. And so I had to have a few goes at this just to try and get it the right shape. So, good to have a good direct source of light for this part of your picture, because then you're going to be more accurate in terms of your drawing. So considering the shape of the wrist for a second, having to think about the bones that make up the wrist. And so it's your arm really that's coming down, that's what that lump is on the left hand side, the bottom of the arm. And now I'm sort of able to think a little bit more clearly about the tone as it comes down into the defining shape of my lower arm or wrist, which is straight. So a little bit more tone now onto the edge of each of my fingernails, because I suppose they're also curving around in a cylindrical shape and therefore creating tone on them as well as the fingers. So now the dark tones have been added, it's time to start adding some mid-tones. So I'm going to hold my pencil lightly for this, and you can see I'm adding it again with a hatching line that's going in a diagonal direction, which is comfortable to hold the pencil in. And I'm now starting to think about, again, that muscly area beside the thumb and where the tone is there. Now all of the right hand side of my hand is going to be in more shadow because the light was coming from the left. And so the middle of the fingers are going to be mid-tones again, and I'm going to leave the left hand side of my fingers to be the highlights. Okay, so now that I've added all of the mid-tones to the fingers, now I'm going to carefully look at the relationships of the dark tones, the mid-tones and the highlights on my hand, and spend a bit of time trying to make it look more realistic, trying to make it look more 3D. So you can see I was just working on my knuckle there at the base of my forefinger, and you can see the shadow where the tendon that joins my finger to my arm goes down, is creating shadow. Also in the webs between my fingers, I've added shadow in there, they're dark places. And then finally readdressing some of the tones and highlights on my thumb. I think I needed to add a little bit more light or highlight down the side of my thumb, because that is where the tendon connects the top of my thumb down to my wrist again. So there we go, that's how we're going to finish up today. We've got 3 essential tones, our highlights, mid-tones and dark tones. We've hopefully created a 3D looking hand and everything's in proportion. So well done. Speak to you next. Goodbye.